Let's take us right back to where it all began when they both started to work with Riverside in 2015. Everyone was waiting in the reception for their new boss to greet them. Chris walked in and was blethering away to the receptionist, all enthusiastic. He hadn't even noticed everyone who was sitting there. Realising the rest of the new starts were there, he introduced himself, and he always remembered shaking Darriane's wee paw. Darriane's first thought was that he was incredibly chatty and wondered if he was ever going to stop talking to the receptionist. Back then, they were on shifts and had assigned lunches and breaks. Their boss just happened to assign them the same breaks and lunches, and at that, Darriane and Chris became firm friends over the next 3 years. They didn't just have breaks and lunches together, they arranged dog walks to go after work and at the weekends. They really just became work besties. Neither of them expected this to happen, but before they even realised, the friendship had become more. Their first date was dinner at the Blair restaurant, and wanting to make a good impression, Chris had an enormous bunch of flowers for Darriane. Darriane wasn't nervous at all for the date and was incredibly impressed with the bouquet of flowers that Chris had brought her. The next big milestone was Darriane meeting Lee, Chris's daughter. They decided to go bowling, and even to this day, Chris hasn't got over the fact that 3 games of bowling had cost him £60. Darriane and Lee got on amazingly, although there was no doubt here, as Darriane is the most kind-hearted person that Chris has ever met. Everything just started falling into place, and it felt only right that Darriane moved in with Chris in his little flat. But when they then moved into their own flat together, this was when Chris knew that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Darriane. They celebrated Christmases and birthdays together, and even for one birthday, Chris made a scavenger hunt for Darriane that had her searching all over Irvine and Cruin for clues, which inevitably led to her gift. Another single red rose, but this time preserved in a glass and rimmed with gold. They went to so many different places, so this became Adventure Saturday, as they would always be off somewhere exploring castles, churches, or some sort of ruins. Their favourite place, where they've camped many times, is Glencoe, and was the perfect place for Chris to get down on one knee. Family is very important to Darriane, and Chris recognised this, so it was only right that he got the blessing from her brother William, mother Kat, and her gran Kathy. Chris arranged a surprise early Christmas present with a weekend away to Glencoe. Surprise? Well, nothing gets past Darriane. And of course, she had a very strong incline that this was happening. Everyone other than Darriane knew that this was the weekend that Chris would propose, although there were a few moments where she did nearly discover the ring. He took her to Signal Rock and asked her to marry him.
forever when I look